Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military with Summary channel, and in this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about two magical words. We're going to talk about global governance. What global governance is currently very difficult to understand, but most likely the leader of China knows what exactly he is talking about. The destiny of humanity is a fair and rational system of global governance. She wants to build a fair and multipolar world with all countries. And the most important that this idea was supported by the Russian Federation, by India, by the strongest economy and the most powerful states in the world. Russia supports Xi Jinping's initiative on global governance for a fair world order. We see that currently there are lots of countries in the world who wants to change something, who wants to take some power back from the United States of America, from the Western countries, and to begin running their own states as they want, as they see. But we understand that this means the global governance carried out by Russia, China, India, of course, with participation and together with the United States of America and European countries, will lead to the situation when some countries will get additional power and some countries will be forced to lose their power. And for example, as we see, the European countries are not ready for this scenario. For example, France is preparing a medicine for a big clash in Europe by March 2026, Le Canard. The French Minister of Health has sent hospitals a document demanding that they prepare for a possible mass influx of wounded. According to Paris scenario, the country will become a rear base for allied armies. Hospitals must be ready to receive from 10,000 to 50,000 soldiers in the first months of the war, and this is a very big number. Medical centers are planned to be deployed near transport hubs, train stations, ports, and airports. In fact, France is restructuring its healthcare system to meet the needs of a potential large-scale war on the continent. And obviously, this is going to be the war, most likely, on the territory of Ukraine. And we need to understand one important thing, that we're talking not about a March of 2026 that is going to take place in March of 2035. This March of 2026 is going to happen in 6 months. So very soon, very likely, European countries will try to send first soldiers, first troopers, weapons and equipment on the territory of Ukraine, just with one purpose, at the first stage of the war, to stabilize the situation. Because most likely the European countries understand that Ukrainians are at a critical phase of the special military operation. Now let's talk about the special military operation and about the situation on the ground. And first we're going to talk about the southern parts of this area. We're going to talk about the Crimea. During the previous days, we received lots of very interesting videos from the southern part of Crimea and from the western part of Kherson. For example, today the Ukrainian sources published this video, and here we can see how Ukrainians using FPV drones attacked Russian airfield, and as a result of this attack, at least 2 helicopters Mi-8 were damaged and maybe even destroyed. In the final part of this video, we can see how another Ukrainian FPV drone attacked Russian ship. So the question is, and the most important question is, how exactly Ukrainians attack these vehicles. Either Ukrainians attack this vehicle from the territory of Crimea itself or from the Black Sea. But if you ask my opinion, I believe that Ukrainians attack the territory of Crimea exactly from the Black Sea. They bring their drones, Navy drones, as close as possible to the shore, and then Ukrainians began bombing and attacking the territory of the territory of Russian bases and Russian positions, and obviously dealing significant damage. For example, just yesterday, Ukrainian resources published another video that it has the same type. Ukrainian drone was flying above Crimea, attacking Russian positions, bases, some bases, radars, some systems, equipment, communication communication equipment, and obviously this damage is not so big as, let's say, in comparison with attack, let's say with HIMARS missile or Iskander strike, but obviously this damage brings to some problems for Russian troopers. For example, another video was published from the western part of the Kherson region. Here we can see the same story. Ukrainians, as a result of reconnaissance operation, managed to discover Russian multiple launch rocket system, and they attacked this system with drone. And obviously they were attacking this system not from the territory of the city of Kherson. They were attacking this multiple launch rocket system from the Black Sea as well. Also, a few days ago, we got video from the Azov Sea. Here we can see how Ukrainians using Navy drone managed to get as close as possible to the Russian ship in this area and to attack this ship later with FPV drones as well. So this is very interesting tactics that Ukrainians began using. We see that Ukrainians, probably with the help of the United Kingdom, are trying to establish complete superiority in the Black Sea. I would like to remind you that several days ago, the Russians tested their own Navy drone in the area of the southern part of Odessa. They destroyed the Ukrainian ship. So as we discussed in the previous videos, the late 2025 and the early 2026 is going to be a very important period of the special military operation, when the Russians will fight with Ukrainians with the support of the United Kingdom for the initiative and complete superiority in the Black Sea. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation on the ground. And first let's talk about the Zaporizhzhia direction. During the previous 12 hours, we haven't recorded any changes on the ground, but several mappers confirmed additional progress on the ground. According to information we have, the Russians cut completely the pocket of Kamyshevacha, and the Russians improved their positions further in the western directions toward the settlement of Nova Ivanovka. So all these updates were provided by different mappers yesterday, the day before yesterday. Today we just received additional confirmation. Pro-Ukraine resources gave us some insights about the situation that took place on the territory of the village of Novoselovka. If you remember, several days ago, pro-Ukraine resources colored this territory as a contested area, or they colored this territory even as a territory under complete Russian control. This happened by the morning of the 29th of August. The Ukrainians added this small pocket or island of resistance on the territory of the village. The next day they colored this territory as a territory under complete Ukraine control, and today Ukrainians gave us some updates about the situation. They said that the Russian sabotage and reconnaissance group, up to 4 soldiers, entered the territory of the village and managed to dig in deeper or something like this. Later Ukrainians sent their own forces and they secured the village and forced the Russians to fall back. So this is the situation that took place in the area of Novoselovka several days ago. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Novopavlovka direction. During the previous nights, very interesting changes were recorded. First of all, the Russians, according to neutral mappers, took under complete control the settlement by the name of Udachne. So the battle for this territory is coming to an end, and if it happens, it's going to be a very important victory for the Russians before moving further in the direction of the mine of Pokrovsk and in the western direction towards the settlement of Molodetska. As for the village of Molodetska, that is located along the railways, according to several pro-Russian resources, during the previous 12 hours, the armed force of the Russian Federation managed to break through Ukrainian defense and to answer the southwestern part of the settlement. So most likely the battle for this territory will intensify in coming hours. Furthermore, the Russians published very interesting video a bit further in the southwestern direction from the settlement of Muravka. The Russians published this video, and here we can see how Russians were dropping different lists, papers suggesting Ukrainians to surrender. You know that this is a pattern of the Russian behavior. Usually before the beginning of another offensive operation, first they suggest Ukrainians to surrender. And if this video was published, this means that the Russians probably are about to take this territory under complete control, that the battle for the village is coming also to the logical end. So we see that the Russians, according to these 3 articles, intensify their activities in the northwestern direction from the Pokrovsk direction. So they're trying to move, probably with the purpose to outflank the settlement of Novopavlovka from the north and from the northeast. Probably the Russians will try to move further in the direction of Novopidgorodne and even maybe in the direction of the settlement of Mizhova. And of course, the Russians will try to attack the settlements of Sergeyevka and Grigorovka from the south and from the southwest. So it seems that the Russians will try to attack exactly in this direction with the purpose to break through another defense layer of the armed forces of Ukraine and to cut the monolith of Ukrainian defense into several pieces. Now let's move in the direction of the city of Pokrovsk itself. During the previous 12 hours, additional changes on the ground were recorded in the most southern part of the settlement. Several buildings, constructions, and facilities were taken by the Russians to the south of the Pokrovsk citadel. As for the northeastern direction, during the previous 12 hours, the Ukrainian resources published several videos that clarified the situation on the ground. First, let's take a look at the video that took place in the area of Mirnogradskaya, mine of Mirnogradskaya. This video was published by Ukrainian sources, and here we can see how Ukrainians were attacking Russian soldiers on the ground with FPV drones. Lots of attacks, lots of episodes, lots of places, and so on. And the final part of this video is the most important one. Here we can see how Ukrainians attacked this mine of Mirnogradskaya itself. This attack of FPV drone took place exactly in this building. So this video confirms that despite the situation around the city, the mine of Mirnogradskaya is under complete and strong control of the armed force of the Russian Federation. At the same time, according to updates we have, Ukrainians counterattacked in the area of the village of Novoekonomichne. Some pro-Russian resources are saying that this part of the settlement of Novoekonomichne is located either under complete Ukrainian control or in the Gray Zone. So the video was published also by Ukrainian sources, and here we can see how Ukrainians, probably stormtroopers of the armed forces of Ukraine, were moving along the streets and buildings of the settlement under very heavy fire of the Russian troops. And in the final part of the video, we can see Ukrainian flag raised above the building. So the flag was raised exactly in this area. This icon shows the movement of on the ground of Ukrainian troops, and these icons show the same. Ukrainians were moving along the street. So based on this video and based on these different articles, we came to the conclusion that Ukrainians, as a result of counter-offensive operation, as you can see, managed to restore control over the central or partial control over the central part of the settlement. The Russians are trying to stabilize the situation, but once again, some Russian very reliable resources are saying that this part of Novoekonomichne used to be in the gray zone or in contested area now. So nobody controlled the situation. Now Ukrainians entered with the purpose to make some video and then to announce another media victory. So this is some opinion of different and several pro-Russian resources. At the same time, the Russians continue their offensive operation along N32 roads. Currently, the Russians are trying to continue their offensive with the purpose to outflank the settlement of Sofievka and to outflank Ukrainian contingent in the area of the villages of Stepanovka, Dovobalka, and Raskishne. So the Russians are moving further in the northern direction, and this information today was provided by different neutral mappers. Very interesting updates. We still haven't received anything about the area of Russian breakthrough. Most likely there are very heavy clashes, but at the same time, we continue receiving updates about additional progress on the ground between these two important Ukrainian strategical positions. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Kupiansk direction. During the previous 12 hours, we got 24 hours. More precisely, we got lots of very interesting updates from this area. If you remember, yesterday, pro-Ukrainian resources reported that as a result of counter-offensive operation, the armed forces of Ukraine managed to restore control over the settlement of Moskovika Mirova. So this is the village. And Ukrainians published a video of their counter-offensive operation in this area. So we discussed this video during the previous day. Let's take a look at this video once again. Just a second. So in this video, we can see how Ukrainians were moving in the southern part of Mirova and how Russians were bombing Ukrainian soldiers with artillery and FPV drones, and several buildings were damaged and destroyed. Based on this video, we colored this territory yesterday in favor of the armed forces of Ukraine. But today, the Russian sources published another video and the Russians clarifying that the village of Mirova is under complete control of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. For example, in this very episode, we can see when exactly the Russians entered the settlement. This took place on the 1st of July of 2025. And when talking about this video, the most important part of this video is not just the Russian soldiers that raised the flag and many other different things. The most important of this video is fields that are located, let's say, to the top left corner of this video. We are talking about these fields. I would like to point your attention. This is it. So as you can see, there is a black surface, which means that here we can see the consequences of very heavy clashes. And later in the second part of this video, Russians published the same video, but not the same video, but the same place, the same episode, but by the 1st of September of 2025. And when talking about this episode, we see that the territory that during the July was covered with the consequences of clashes now was covered with just a regular grass, which means that indeed there was a gap between first and the second video. So this video confirms that the Russians control the settlement of Mirova. Maybe this is a kill zone, maybe this is a gray zone, or maybe something like this, but obviously Russians have stronger control in comparison with the Ukrainian side. Based on this video, we restored control of the settlement of Mirova back in Russian favor. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching, subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.